Okay, so today we're going to dive into something that I think is super relevant to, well, pretty much everyone, insurance.
Yeah, insurance.
And not all the crazy details and fine print. We're talking about what actually gives you the best value.
Right, because you hear that phrase a lot, right? Best value.
All the time, yeah.
But it's not always clear what it means.
Totally, because you might just automatically think, oh, best value, that's just the cheapest option.
Right, the lowest price tag.
But there's so much more to it than that, right?
Absolutely. It's like this whole puzzle where you've got to figure out what you're paying, what you're actually covered for if something happens, and even, what it's like dealing with the insurance company when you need their help.
Exactly. How smooth is that process going to be?
That's a big one.
And that's really what we're going to unpack today.
Yeah, we're focusing on 3 main types of insurance that I think most people deal with at some point: auto, health, and life insurance.
And the thing is, what's considered best value in each of those is going to be different for every single person. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's all about your own personal situation.
Yeah, where you live, how old you are, even things like how comfortable you are using online tools and websites.
All that plays into it.
All those little things can totally change what actually matters most to you when you're picking an insurance policy. So basically, we're here to give you a better sense of what's out there and what questions you should be asking yourself before you make any decisions.
Exactly. Arm you with the information you need.
So let's kick things off with auto insurance because, well, most of us have to deal with that at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty essential for most people.
And one thing that just jumps out at me right away is that the cost of full coverage auto insurance, it's gone up, noticeably.
Oh yeah, it has been climbing.
As of April 2025, the national average is about $2,678 per year.
Wow, that's a chunk of change.
I know, and that's up from about $2,500 just the year before, in March 2024.
So it's definitely trending upwards.
Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. But when you look at the companies themselves, there are some that consistently get recognized for offering good value.
Right, some that rise to the top.
And one that I see mentioned all the time is Travelers. They're often ranked as the best overall pick.
They do have a solid reputation.
Yeah, and for a good driver, someone with a clean record, they might be looking at an average annual cost of around $597 with Travelers.
That's a significant difference compared to that national average we just talked about.
It is, but it's not just about the price, right? They also score really well in terms of customer satisfaction, especially when it comes to the claims process.
Yeah, that's crucial. No one wants a nightmare when they have to file a claim.
Exactly. And their customer satisfaction for claims is around 87%.
That's impressive.
It is. And on top of that, they also have a really decent digital experience rating. If you're someone who wants to manage everything online, pay your bills, make changes to your policy, all that stuff.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah. They get a rating of about 4.2 out of 5 for that.
So they're hitting those key areas.
Yeah.
Price, service, and technology.
They are. And another thing that's interesting about Travelers is that they seem to have good rates for different types of drivers.
Yeah.
Not just the perfect record folks.
Right. So they're catering to a wider range of people.
Exactly. Plus, they've got all these discounts. If you bundle your policies, if you have a hybrid or electric car.
Oh, yeah. Those green discounts are becoming more common.
Yeah. And even good student discounts. So they seem to be pretty flexible.
Now, it's interesting to contrast that with a company like Nationwide. They often get highlighted for having some of the best rates for just the general public.
Oh yeah, Nationwide, I've heard that too.
Their average annual cost is even lower than Travelers, around $1,452.
See, that's what I'm talking about. If you're really trying to save money, that's going to catch your attention.
Absolutely. But as with most things, there's often a trade-off.
Right.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for.
Well, in this case, it seems their digital experience rating takes a hit. It's much lower, around 2.2 out of 5.
Ooh, that's a pretty big difference.
It is. So it seems like if your main goal is to just have the absolute lowest premium possible, Nationwide might be a good option.
Yeah, you'll definitely save money up front.
But if you really value that seamless online experience, being able to manage your policy easily without any hassle.
That's where it might fall short.
Exactly. So again, it comes back to what best value truly means for you. Are you willing to potentially sacrifice some convenience for those lower costs?
It's all about your priorities.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears a bit, we have companies like Erie. They really shine when it comes to specifically claims handling.
Oh, Erie. Yeah, I've heard good things about them.
Their customer satisfaction in that area is through the roof, something like 90%.
90%. That's huge.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the moment you truly understand the value of your insurance is when you actually have to use it, right?
You got it, when you have to file that claim. And you want that whole experience to be as painless as possible.
No one wants to deal with extra stress on top of like whatever situation caused the claim in the first place.
Exactly. Now, their average rates are a bit higher than both Nationwide and Travelers, about $5,866 annually.
Okay, so a bit more expensive.
But they consistently get top ratings from both the people who fix cars, the repair shops.
Oh, interesting. So the professionals trust them.
They do, and they also get great reviews from the drivers who've actually gone through the claims process with them. So if knowing that you'll be taken care of when you need to file a claim is your biggest priority.
Erie seems like a pretty safe bet.
They also have a pretty good digital experience rating, 3.9 out of 5.
Okay, so not quite as high as Travelers, but still very respectable.
Yeah, they're not lagging behind by much in that department.
So it's cool to see how these different companies really have their own strengths. Like, Travelers seems to be a good all-rounder, Nationwide is all about affordability, and Erie is focused on that really solid claims experience.
It's like choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And we also heard some mentions of auto owners, which apparently scores really well for customer satisfaction overall.
Yeah, they're known for keeping their customers happy.
And then there's Geico, which is often seen as a good budget-friendly option, especially for people who maybe haven't had the best credit history.
All right, they seem to be a bit more forgiving in that regard.
Now, one thing that's super important to remember is that not every insurance company is available everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Location matters.
Like Erie, for example. They might not be an option depending on what state you live in.
And similarly, USIA, which often gets amazing ratings.
Oh yeah, I've heard great things about USAA.
They mostly cater to military families, so if you're not in the military or related to someone who is, you probably won't be able to get a policy with them.
So your choices can be limited by where you live or certain affiliations you might have.
It's worth checking into that early on.
Definitely. And it's also good to know that when these organizations rank insurance companies, they don't just look at price.
Right, it's a much broader picture.
They consider things like what kind of coverage options are available, how many complaints the company gets.
Because those complaints can tell you a lot.
They really can. And like we've been talking about, how easy their website and online tools are to use.
All those factors play into those rankings.
Okay, so let's shift gears now and talk about health insurance.
Yeah, health insurance. A whole other world.
It is. And I think best value gets even trickier with health insurance, wouldn't you say?
It definitely does. There's a lot more to juggle.
Because it's not just about that monthly premium you pay.
No, not at all.
It's also about, like, how much you might have to pay out of pocket if you get sick, which is your deductible.
Right, that deductible can be a real surprise if you're not prepared for it.
And then you also have to consider what kind of access you have to doctors and specialists.
Absolutely. You want to make sure you can actually see the healthcare providers you trust.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance between those regular payments and how much you might have to shell out later and making sure you can actually get the care you need.
It's a lot to weigh.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, one company that always seems to come up as a high-value option, especially for those ACA plans, you know, the Affordable Care Act.
The marketplace plans, yeah.
Yeah, is Kaiser Permanente.
Kaiser, yeah, they have a strong reputation.
But there's a big catch with them. They're not available everywhere.
Right, they're definitely regionally focused.
Yeah, they mostly operate in specific areas like California, Colorado, Georgia, a few others.
They're in Hawaii, Virginia, Maryland, let's see, Oregon, Washington, and DC.
Okay, so a decent number of states, but definitely not nationwide.
But in those areas where they do operate, they get really high marks.
They do. And their average monthly premium is about $570.
That's pretty competitive, especially considering the rising cost of healthcare.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that people seem to like about Kaiser is their integrated care model.
Oh, yeah, that's a big selling point for them.
Like your primary care doctor, your specialists, even the hospitals are all part of the same network.
It's all connected.
And that can be really helpful, right?
Yeah, it often leads to better coordination of your care, potentially lower costs over time, and it's just less hassle for the patient.
Less running around trying to figure out who's covered and all that.
Exactly. And they also have a very low rate of complaints from their members, which is always a positive sign.
So people are generally happy with their service.
It seems so. Now, their overall ratings often reach that perfect 5.0 score.
Wow, that's impressive.
But one thing to keep in mind is that their average deductible for a silver plan can be around $4,218.
Okay, so that's a decent chunk of change you might have to pay up front if you need more than just routine care.
Right, it's a factor to consider.
So, potentially lower monthly payments, a well-coordinated care system, but a higher deductible if something major happens.
You got it. It's all about weighing those pros and cons.
Now, for those of us who don't live in a Kaiser area, what are some other good options for health insurance?
Well, Aetna often comes up as a strong alternative.
Aetna, okay.
Their average monthly premium is a bit higher than Kaiser's, around $594.
Okay, so slight increase there.
But they also have a very low rate of complaints from their members.
Oh, that's good to hear.
It is. Now, the trade-off here seems to be a higher average deductible, which can be as much as $7,231.
Wow, that's a big jump.
It is. But they are available in more states than Kaiser, about 17 states.
Okay, so a bit more widespread.
They also seem to have a pretty reasonable average cost for specialist visits, around $72.
That's not bad at all.
And their overall rating is solid, too, around 4.5.
So with Aetna, it seems like you might pay a bit more each month, but potentially save on specialist visits. But you could be hit with a higher deductible if you have a major health issue.
Exactly. It really highlights how these different plans cater to different needs and situations.
And then, of course, we have a name that practically everyone knows, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Blue Cross Blue Shield, yeah, they're kind of a household name.
They are. And their biggest advantage is that they're available pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, you can usually find a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan in all 50 states in D.C.
So no matter where you live, you've got that option.
Their average premium is a bit higher, around $665.
Okay, so the most expensive of the three we've talked about so far.
And their average deductible is right in the middle, around $4,618.
Right, so middle of the road on that front.
Their rating is decent, 4.2.
Solid, but not quite as high as the others.
But they're a reliable option.
Yeah, like if you want that wide network of providers, that peace of mind of a well-established brand,
And you're not too worried about paying a bit more each month.
they could be a good fit.
We also saw some mentions of Oscar.
Oh yeah, Oscar.
They seem to be going for that tech-savvy approach with a big focus on customer service.
Yeah, I've seen their ads. They definitely have that modern vibe.
And their average premiums and deductibles fall somewhere between the others we've discussed.
Okay, so kind of in the middle ground there.
Their average premium is about $610. Deductible is $4,760. Overall rating of 4.4.
Not bad at all.
They are available in 17 states.
Okay, so not as widespread as Blue Cross Blue Shield, but still a decent number of states.
Right. So as we've seen with auto insurance, location can be a key factor.
And just like with auto insurance, these health insurance rankings, they look at a lot more than just the monthly premium.
They do. It's a holistic evaluation.
They factor in those complaint rates, the deductibles, how many doctors and hospitals are in their network.
All those pieces of the puzzle.
Okay, ready to move on to life insurance?
Let's do it. This is where things get a bit more, I guess you could say, long-term focused.
Yeah, life insurance is all about making sure your loved ones are taken care of financially if something happens to you.
It's about providing that safety net.
And when it comes to best value in life insurance, it often comes down to, like, finding enough coverage at a price you can afford from a company that's going to be around for the long haul.
Right. Financial stability is key here.
You want to be confident that they'll actually be able to pay out if a claim is ever made.
Absolutely. Now, when we're talking about term life insurance, which is usually the most affordable way to get a lot of coverage for a specific period of time,
Yeah, term life is usually the more budget-friendly option.
there are a couple of companies that consistently stand out. Protective and Pacific Life.
I've heard of those.
They're known for having very competitive rates on term life policies. For example, let's say you have a healthy 30-year-old woman who's looking for a 20-year term policy with $250,000 in coverage.
Okay, so a pretty standard scenario.
Right. With those companies, she might be looking at annual costs somewhere between $127 back and $128.
That's really affordable.
It is. Now, for a man of the same age and with the same coverage needs, it might be a little bit higher, around $144 to $145 per year.
Okay, so still pretty manageable.
But it's not just about the low prices, right? You want to know that these companies are financially sound.
Exactly. You don't want to pick a company that might not be around when your family needs them.
Both Protective and Pacific Life have those strong financial strength ratings from AM Best. They typically hold an A+ superior rating.
Okay, so that's a good indicator that they're stable and reliable.
It is. And they also tend to score well in terms of customer sentiment. People generally have positive experiences with them.
So you're getting that peace of mind along with a good price.
We also saw Penn Mutual mentioned as another strong contender for term life insurance.
Penn Mutual.
Similar cost to Protective and Pacific Life, and they also have that A+ rating from AM Best.
So another solid option.
It seems so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we move on to whole life insurance, which is a bit more complex.
Yeah, whole life is a different beast.
It is. It provides lifelong coverage and has that cash value component, but the premiums are generally a lot higher.
It's definitely a bigger financial commitment.
But there are still companies that stand out in terms of value, even with those higher costs.
Right. You can still find good deals.
Mass Mutual and Northwestern Mutual are two that are consistently highly regarded.
Mass Mutual and Northwestern Mutual, okay.
They're known for very high customer satisfaction and exceptional financial strength.
So they check those important boxes.
Mass Mutual, for example, often have an A++ superior rating from AM Best, which is the highest possible rating.
Wow, so they're like the gold standard.
They really are. And they also have a very high level of positive customer sentiment.
So even though you might be paying more with a whole life policy, you're getting that added security of dealing with a really financially solid company that has a history of treating its customers well.
Exactly. And when those rankings are put together for life insurance, they consider the cost, of course, but also things like the specific features of the policies.
Right, because not all policies are created equal.
And for whole life insurance, they also look at the potential for investment growth within those policies.
Because the whole life can be a bit like an investment, right?
It can be, yeah. And then, of course, those financial stability ratings play a big role.
Makes sense. We also saw a quick mention of no-exam life insurance policies.
Yeah, those are becoming more popular.
Like from companies like Bright House Financial and Legal and General America.
Those might be a good option for people who just want a quick and easy application process, no medical exam required.
Yeah, that can be appealing for some people.
It can definitely save some time and hassle.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. Auto, health, life insurance. It's a lot to take in.
It is a lot.
What are the biggest things people should keep in mind when they're trying to figure out what best value means for them?
The most important thing to remember is that there is no one right answer. It's all about your individual circumstances.
It's personal.
It is. Where you live, your age, your health, your driving record, if we're talking about auto insurance, the type and amount of coverage you need, all those things play into it.
So there's no magic formula.
No, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
What's the first thing someone should do, like practically, to start figuring out what's best for them?
Get quotes from multiple companies. That's always the first step.
Yeah, shop around, compare prices.
Absolutely. We've seen that prices for basically the same coverage can be very different depending on the company.
So don't just go with the first one you find.
No, do your homework.
We also talked about bundling insurance policies.
Oh yeah, bundling. That can be tempting.
Like getting your car and home insurance from the same companies. Is that always the best way to go?
It can be, but it's not guaranteed.
Right, because companies like to advertise those discounts for bundling.
They do, but it's always a good idea to compare.
Yeah, like you might find that getting separate policies from different companies actually saves you more money overall.
It's worth running the numbers both ways.
Now, what about people who have more complicated insurance needs?
If it's getting tricky, especially with health or life insurance.
Yeah, if you're not sure where to even start.
Talking to an insurance agent or a financial advisor can be really helpful.
Oh yeah, getting some expert advice.
They can give you personalized guidance, help you understand all those complicated details, and steer you towards the options that are most likely to give you the best value for your specific situation.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't be afraid to ask for help.
And remember, all the information we've been talking about is based on what we know right now.
Right, things are always changing.
The data we referenced is from April 2025.
So it gives you a good overview of the current landscape. But it's always smart to check for the most up-to-date information when you're actually making decisions about your insurance. So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that finding that perfect balance of insurance value, it's not always easy.
It's a journey.
But it's definitely worth the effort.
It is.
And the thing is, the insurance world is constantly evolving.
It never stands still.
What might be the best value for you today might not be the best value in a year or two.
Right, you have to stay informed.
So it really makes you think about how important it is to regularly review your coverage and make sure it's still meeting your needs and fitting your budget.
This brings up a good question, actually. When you think about insurance, what part of value matters most to you?
That's a good one.
Is it all about getting the lowest possible price? Or are you more focused on things like great customer service?
Oh, yeah, or having really comprehensive coverage.
Or maybe having a really smooth claims process if you ever need to use it.
It's all food for thought.
It is. Take some time to think about your own priorities and what matters most to you in this whole insurance world.
And hopefully the stuff we talk about today will help you make those decisions moving forward.
That's the goal. It's all about finding what fits your life best.
That's it for today's deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.